Hi everyone, Christina Werner here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be doing another really easy DIY watercolor card, and I'm mostly going to be using blue painter's tape as a technique, or the masking with the blue painter's tape as a technique for today's card. So the first thing I've done is I've taken some watercolor paper, in this case Canson XL watercolor paper, and I've cut it to be a standard size card and folded it in half. Then I taped it to a hard board using blue painter's tape right along the top edge and around all three other sides. So I'm taking a long strip of that blue tape and I'm using a ruler and an X-Acto knife or a craft knife to cut the tape into smaller strips. These small narrow strips are going to create kind of a pieced pattern on my card front. So I'm going to peel up one of these first little strips and move it over to my project, and I'm going to have it go all the way across, and then I'm going to kind of cut off the excess, and I can then use it in another section. So I'm just having that come off that first tape line, then I can cut that off and I can use that piece on another section. So I'm using every single bit of that narrow cut tape as much as I can to try to utilize everything. Now you can just put this on here really randomly. It doesn't matter the design. The one thing you want to think about in advance though is where you're going to have your greeting. I'm going to have my greeting sort of near the top on the right hand side. So as I start watercoloring, I'm going to preserve that one section and make sure that nothing is painted in that section. I also pressed down that tape really well, make sure that it was adhered very well. Using some Crayola watercolor paints. This is just an 8-color set and it's very inexpensive, just a couple dollars or maybe even just $1 depending on where you buy it. And I'm using the same paintbrush that comes with that palette. So as far as the watercoloring goes on this card, I'm going to keep it really simple. It's messy and it has a definite watercolor look to it, which I think is really neat. So I am thinking about color placement, however. I want this to sort of have a rainbow pattern going all the way down. So I'm starting near the top with red and orange colors and red and yellow. And as I move down farther to the bottom of the card, I'll gradually start changing the colors to the other colors of the rainbow. So here I'm going to add some green. It's mostly yellow with a little bit of green, and then I'll start adding a little bit of blue, and I want that blue to come in more up into that middle section, and then lots of blue as it moves down, and then I'll start adding in some violet or purple. And on this very last section, I'll have lots of purple because that's where it would be most saturated. So I'm going to clean up some of these areas, make sure the paint goes all the way to the edge of all the tape. And then after it's dry, you can remove all of those little itty bitty paint strips, and you're left behind with a really awesome pattern. Now, I peeled off all this tape and then realized right after that I actually wanted to paint that section where I have the greeting, or I'm planning to have the greeting. I wanted to paint that black. I thought it would look really cool and awesome next to the white lines and the colorful sections. So I took some black paint from that watercolor palette and very quickly discovered that it's not really stark black. It's just kind of like a really dark brown. And it didn't look all that great. So even after painting that in, I decided to go ahead and cover it up with some waterproof black ink. This is some India ink, and I'll have this linked down in the supply section below, but you don't necessarily have to use a black ink for this. You could also use a black Sharpie or a black marker or even a black stamping ink. You would just mask off all the areas around that section and then sponge on some ink. You could also do that. So I'm removing the tape around that area, and I noticed that there was a little spot near the top of that section that kind of bled through. So first I dried that area really well with my heat tool. You could also just let it air dry. And then I brought in some white gouache. This is a really opaque paint, and I'm just going to use that to clean up that section at the top. This is going to give it a nice clean line. It doesn't hide it completely because that black was really strong, but it does hide it enough so that your eye doesn't immediately go there when you look at the card. So then I took a white gel pen. This is a number 10 bold white jelly roll pen, and I wrote on my greeting. And it looked okay, but then I decided I wanted it to be a little bit more bold. So I took that same white gouache that I used to clean up the top edge of this section, and I went over the words and just thickened up those lines. For this, I switched to a slightly better paintbrush, or actually lots better paintbrush. This is actually a paintbrush from Royal and Langnickel from their Zen watercolor brush line. And you could just use any small paintbrush for this actually, because you're not doing anything super detailed. I did paint on some hearts, and because this is going right on top of some watercolor that can be reactivated, some of that color does come through on those hearts, but I think it looks really cool. So that's the card for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. This is a really fun card, especially if you have just a few supplies on hand. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll catch you guys in another video very soon.